Hello everybody, welcome to another Boxing Locker vlog from me, Matt Goddard from the Boxing Locker. Don't forget you can find me on Instagram at the Boxing Locker and my website www.theboxinglocker.com. We'll go through all of that again at the end. So this is it, the big reaction. What an absolutely exceptional fight. A great display from Caleb Plant. Boxed really well early on in the fight as predicted. Established a very nice jab. I actually gave him more rounds than the judges did. However, I think this is a very subjective fight. It depends on what you personally prefer to watch. Whether you prefer the more efficient, deliberate style of Canelo, focusing on power shots, working to the body, or whether you prefer that old school box and move, land the jab and defense style of Caleb Plant. Now, I'm not going to score the rounds. Seems a bit redundant. We know the result. It ended in a knockout, so the scoring of the rounds is fairly irrelevant. Canelo, undisputed super middleweight champion of the world, an enormous achievement. If you look back at his career already, he's achieved some immense things. Anybody who deliberately doesn't appreciate what he's done in boxing or down talks the guy is purely a hater. I personally still don't think he's unbeatable. As we saw with Floyd, he is beatable. I think the problem for me when I see all of these guys go out and box him is everybody tries to box to a blueprint that they think is the method of beating him. It's the same problem that people have with Floyd. Rather than box the way they box the way they're confident, box the way they've always boxed, they try and change their entire game plan to box in a way that suits defeating these fighters. But actually that's just not how it works. You'll always perform better if you do what you do best. As we saw with Gennady Golovkin in both Canelo fights, as we saw with Marcos Maidana, Oscar De La Hoya and Miguel Cotto against Floyd. If you go out there, establish yourself, establish your boxing style and enforce that upon the other person, you have a much greater chance of having success than if you go out there, try and change your whole game plan, your whole demeanor to suit that fighter. So, I'm not saying, by the way, that you can't make technical decisions, technical adaptations or corrections to specific things. Game plan is important, but you don't want to throw your whole history as a boxer out the window purely to try and beat another guy. I don't think Caleb Plant did this against Canelo. I think he did go out there and box how he would usually box. I just don't think he was aggressive enough in his use of the backhand or didn't attack the body enough with enough vigor. I think the problem with these guys boxing Canelo is that they're all in fear of his power. Not literal fear, not fear in their head, just subconsciously they know they have to watch out for the counter shots, and as a result they just don't commit in the same way, except once again for Gennady Golovkin, who both times ran it close. I had Golovkin winning the first fight and I had the second fight to Canelo, but again, subjective preference, all those kind of things. So, congratulations to Saul Canelo Alvarez. Excellent result. Undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. Hopefully now he takes a fight against the last sort of three names in that area that are interesting, which would be Charlo, Benavidez, and finally the third Golovkin fight. I'd like him to fight Golovkin first, to be honest, because Golovkin, as we all know, is getting a bit past it. He's definitely not in his prime anymore, and I think he's only really going to have one more chance at establishing himself in that fight. I personally don't think he can do it a third time, but we shall see if that fight ever materialises. Caleb Plant, back to the drawing board with regards to just sharpening up certain mistakes that he made in the fight. Things like getting a bit lazy with that jab as he got tired. Things like sitting on the ropes for too long against Canelo before picking up the power shot, picking up the counter shot, and subsequently just taking too many shots to the body. And also just letting his hands go a little bit better. He's a beautiful, beautiful combination puncher. And I was a little bit sad to see that he didn't throw too many combinations. But incredible defense, great counter punching, big strong guy, showed that he's tough and he's got heart. What can you do? He got knocked out. He did his best. He gave it 100%, and that's definitely not the end of him in the division. He'll probably re-establish himself as a world champion once Canelo decides whether he's going to move up or back down or what the situation is. With regards to Canelo, I'd like to see Golovkin first, then I'd like to see him box Benavidez, and then the Charlo fight finally. That sort of cements the division. There's no real other names in there worth their weight for his legacy. You're looking at Edgar Berlanga coming up, but I don't think he'll be ready anywhere near in time to box Canelo. And then we move on to the light heavyweights. People are talking about cruiserweights. I mean, light heavy is a far better division for him with regards to quality of opposition, because everybody wants to see him box Beterbiev or Bivol. Whether those fights happen is another thing entirely, but we can only wait and see. I'm not sure Canelo really needs to go back up again. I think he beat the best opposition he could beat at the time in Kovalev, with regards to Kovalev being old and having his own difficulties outside of the ring. So I think that was probably a wise decision to go up and box Kovalev, particularly after a sort of sapping fight with Yard that he'd had. So yeah, I'm not sure we'll see Canelo back up at light heavyweight, but he keeps on surprising me, so I believe he'll continue to do so. One more thing, guys, the final thing to mention. I'm not always going to be the guy that says I told you so, but wind on back to my prediction video for the Canelo Plant video, and I predicted Plant would make it difficult for him early as Canelo figured out the timing, as we saw. I predicted that Canelo would pace himself, be efficient, and pick lots of big body shots, try and slow Plant's movement, as we saw. And I predicted that we would have a Canelo stoppage in round 11 or 12. What do we have? Round 11. So maybe I should start putting some money on some of these predictions. I hope everybody enjoys these videos. Keep tuning in, and many more to come. Check out my Terence Crawford and Sean Porter prediction video, and I'll plan on doing a few more over the coming weeks. Take care, guys. As always, find me on Instagram at The Boxing Locker. Head over to my website and subscribe for some of the best world-class elite level coaching content that you can get online. Lots of longer tutorials coming. And find me on Facebook and Twitter at The Boxing Locker. I hope everybody enjoys the videos, keeps coming back, likes, saves, shares, and don't forget to click subscribe. Have a great day, and I'll see you for the next one.